Well, we come to. I just wanted to on this obstruction point. What do we make of this?
Well,
because it seems to me like superficially, yeah, okay, he's blocking people from. But hang on a second. If the whole thing is illegitimate, isn't it completely okay to not cooperate?
And this is a large part of why President Trump was elected, is that we saw a lack of due process, a lack of fairness. And this is all really about fairness. The American people, we naturally don't like things being unfair. Yeah. And yet he's being accused of obstruction because he's challenging in court their subpoenas, which you get to do. It's a legal thing you do. It is the proper process, and the American people. This is what we think we should be able to do. What clearly the Democrats are saying is you don't get to defend yourself. That defending yourself is obstruction, whereas in fact that's exactly the process that should be used.
That's it, isn't it?
And exactly. The American people don't like this, and combined with these phone calls and getting the phone records of people, now that looks a little murky about whether they should have been allowed to do that without a warrant. The Americans are seeing this, and they're reminded about what it was we didn't like pre-2016, which was a federal government gone wild, and not just at a Mardi Gras parade, but everywhere. And we wanted someone to rein them in, to remind them who the sovereign was, and that is us.
That's right. That's very smart. You see, what they're trying to do is rebrand defending yourself as obstruction.
That's
correct. What they're doing. Jason, you've been on that side of it in Congress. What do you think of the obstruction point?
It is absurd. For 8 years during the entire Obama administration, I was on the Oversight Committee. I was the chair of that committee. I issued subpoenas. I issued letters. And if there's one that led the charge in blocking and making sure that the United States Congress didn't get access to people and records, it was the Obama-Biden administration. And if that is their standard for impeachment, Barack Obama should have been impeached a long, long time ago. Because you do get a chance to defend yourself. There is executive privilege. There are things in this tension between our co-equal branches of government. But if you exercise your right, it doesn't mean you're guilty of doing something. It means that part of it needs to be adjudicated. And some of the people they complained that didn't come before the committee, they weren't even issued a subpoena. They weren't even invited to come.
And that is a Stalinistic framework, just as it is. Bring me the man and I'll find you the crime. It normally should be there's a crime, and then you deal with the looking.
But they've been fishing. They've been fishing for
from the start, because they've been doing from the start.
And the American people see that.
On this one, you touched on it earlier. Let's just go to this one, which is a key argument from the Republicans, which is about the aid being delivered. This is Kevin McCarthy.
The president released the money, and Ukraine did nothing for the money to be released.
There's the two parts, right? The money went, and also there was no demand. And then I think Jim Jordan effectively made the point, didn't he, that there was sort of 5 meetings.
Well, the only direct evidence that we ever heard was Ambassador Sondland saying he had a direct conversation with President Trump. What did President Trump tell him? I don't want anything. No quid pro quo. Just want them to do the right thing. That is the only direct testimony we heard.
So when they say, in response to that, well, it's still it's an attempted crime, and that's still a crime. What do you make of that?
I think that it's actually a mistake to go into the weeds of what was done when and if there was a response to it, because all of this is a challenge to the president's right to conduct foreign policy.
Right. That's a great point.
This is what you win. Right. And every negotiation, it's like, I don't know, what do you call sending over $1.5 billion on a pallet of cash to the Iranians to get them to do something, right? Wasn't that part of the exchange?
That's right.
I mean, all negotiations involve this for that in some fashion, whether it's with trying to get North Korea to do something or Iran or an ally. But however it is to proceed, this is the nature of what any president wins, which is the right to conduct foreign policy as he sees fit.
He absolutely does have the right to conduct foreign policy as he sees fit. And you can't charge somebody with a crime because they're deliberating and thinking of how things should go. We're going to just start charging people with their thoughts?
Right. Well, there you go.
Really, exactly. That's what they've implied.
So one last one. I just want to quickly get this in, because I feel very fired up over this. You see this argument the whole time that the president only released the aid because he got caught. Let's just look at this one.
In this situation, we've got somebody really caught in the middle of it, and that doesn't excuse the person from the consequences.
So, Jason, just only time for one response on this, but it annoys me so much because what they're saying is that the president had the block on the aid. He then found out about the whistleblower. The White House was informed, and that's the only reason that they released it. Whereas there's all this contradictory stuff. There's Ron Johnson saying he had a phone call with the president days before the whistleblower thing went anywhere near the White House, saying that the president basically hinting that he was going to do it. You've also got the phone call from Senator Rob Portman in between those two things. It's just completely made up, and yet it's basically a debunked conspiracy theory. It's just endlessly recycled.
The professor who made that, who testified to that, had no firsthand knowledge. What you did hear from was a gentleman from the State Department, I don't recall his name, who does have firsthand knowledge, and he said there was a deep consideration by the entire administration, based in large part on the law, that said we've got to make sure that others, like Germany and others, are contributing into to the pool. So, and again, the money was released before the deadline.